Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be the Combat Series episode number 116 for you guys today. And I'll be sharing my fight preview between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. It's not a fight prediction, but a small glimpse into the future of what we're going to be watching 2 weeks from now. And a winner-take-all, undisputed super middleweight title fight between two top 10 pound-for-pound greats and two of the greatest fighters of this generation since Floyd Mayweather has retired from the sport of boxing. So, I'll be going over the advantages and disadvantages that these respective fighters will be having and heading into with the fight 2 weeks away. So, let's get to the advantage. First advantage is going to be the height and the reach advantage. That advantage goes in favor of Terence Crawford. Now, the height and the reach, I know Terence Crawford is moving up 2 weight classes, but in terms of size, height, and reach, Terence Crawford really isn't that small compared to Canelo Alvarez outside of weight classes. But outside of the ring, these guys are the same size. I mean, Terence Crawford is 5'8" with a reach of 74 inches. Then you look at the champion the champion Canelo Alvarez, who's 5'7" with a reach of 70 inches. The height and the reach goes in favor of Terence Crawford for this fight against Canelo Alvarez. I've seen the difference when these two were jockeying for position to see who was going to be the alpha when these guys had their press conference a few months ago where they were doing a little bit of trash talk and promoting the fight up on that stage with Dana White and company. And Terence Crawford pushed Canelo Alvarez, and Canelo Alvarez was very pissed off. But when you seen them stand side to side by each other, you're like, hey, Crawford really isn't that smaller compared to Canelo Alvarez. But there's weight classes, and I'll get into that in a few moments. But the height and the reach advantage goes in favor of Terence Crawford heading into this monumental fight. Advantage, weight class, goes to Canelo Alvarez. Now, Canelo Alvarez clearly has the weight advantage over Terence Crawford, and that's a disadvantage that Terence Crawford is at heading into this big championship fight because Canelo Alvarez has been dominating at this super middleweight division. For people that don't know the particular weight, that is 168 pounds in the sport of boxing. He's been dominant at this division for years. He's the first ever undisputed super middleweight champion in boxing history, and he's the only man to become a 2-time undisputed champion at the super middleweight division. So Canelo Alvarez has never lost at this weight. His resume is really impressive at this weight. He's fought Triple G 3 times and defeated Triple G 2 out of 3 times, and obviously he never lost to Triple G because the first fight in that trilogy ended up in a draw. So he's defeated Triple G 2 out of 3 times at this division. He's defeated Caleb Plant to cement his legacy to become an undisputed champion. When he did that and knocked out Caleb Plant in 2021, he defeated Billy Joe Saunders, knocked him out on his quest to being the greatest super middleweight champion of all time, Callum Smith. This is an impressive resume, and for someone that has never lost at this weight class, that's a huge advantage that Canelo Alvarez has over Terence Crawford. Meanwhile, Terence Crawford is moving up 2 weight classes for this fight. He's never fought at 160 or 168. Should have did a tune-up at either 160, 168 to have a feel or have a vibe for how his body would react with fighting at this particular weight. But he didn't do that. And his last performance, Terence Crawford hasn't been in the ring in the last 13 months. His last performance was against Israel Madrimov when he moved up to 154 for the first time, the super welterweight division last summer. And yes, he did defeat Israel Madrimov to become a 4-division world champion and took the WBA title from him. However, he did struggle a bit in that fight, and you could tell that Israel Madrimov was the much bigger fighter than Terence Crawford. So there was flaws in Terence Crawford's game when he moved up to 154. Huge weight advantage goes to Canelo Alvarez for this fight when him and Crawford get in the ring with each other in a few weeks. Advantage. The advantage of power and strength goes to Canelo Alvarez. I think Terence Crawford is at a disadvantage. As great as Terence Crawford has been, he's been a knockout artist. He is 40-0. 31 victories have come by way of knockout for Terence Crawford. But again, this goes back to what I just said a few moments ago. Canelo Alvarez is very comfortable at this particular weight class. Body shots and the hooks that he lands on his opponents, they sound like gunshots when you're watching from home. And I never witnessed a Canelo Alvarez fight live, but I can only imagine what those shots sound like in the arena. So Canelo Alvarez is very capable of landing the power shots, landing the hooks, the uppercuts to make his opponents feel uncomfortable, retreat from him after they felt the power, got a taste of that. He can land the knockout or the knockdown. And he's done that several times at this 168 pound division. And his ability to walk his opponents down and cut the ring off so his opponents are forced to retreat and box off the back foot with not that much room to move around the boxing ring. This goes in favor of Canelo Alvarez once he likes to land the power shots and dictate the pace of the fight. Once his opponents have felt the power of Canelo Alvarez, he makes his opponents respect his power in that boxing ring. This has led to several knockouts, several knockdowns, and his quest to becoming the greatest super middleweight champion of all time. So that advantage essentially goes to Canelo Alvarez. Speed and agility. That advantage goes to Terence Crawford. And I think Canelo Alvarez is at a disadvantage. Now, Terence Crawford is actually very quick. He has the better footwork. I think he has the much better footwork compared to Canelo Alvarez. He likes to fight in different lateral movements. This is one of the reasons why Terence Crawford has been so special with the speed, the agility, the athleticism, the footwork, fighting in different lateral movements to frustrate his opponents in the boxing ring. He's a better counterpuncher than Canelo Alvarez. And yes, you can debate me all day that Terence Crawford is a better counterpuncher than Canelo Alvarez. And Canelo Alvarez is actually starting to slow down in that counter-punching department. Look at the tape. Since that Bivol fight in 2022, he's not the same aggressive counter-puncher. But I think Terence Crawford has that advantage because he's a better counter-puncher, lands punches and flurries, and he's faster. And yes, I just did say he has 31 victories coming away of knockout. And yeah, he is coming up 2 weight classes. But you look at his welterweight run, he knocked out every single opponent at 147 when he fought at that weight from 2017 to 2017 to 2023. But he is not a fighter that depends on power. And this version of Canelo Alvarez, in my opinion, has depended on the power because there's a lot of miles on that car. There's a lot of mileage on that car body. Canelo has fought over 60 pro fights in his boxing career. But, like I said, he's been slowing down. There's not much gas left in that gas tank. Or the opponents that Canelo Alvarez, it's either that or the opponents that Canelo Alvarez has cherry-picked since that Triple G fight, he's just making it look easy out there. Think about it. John Ryder, Jermell Charlo, who moved up from 154 to 168, that was clearly there for a payday. Who am I missing here? Will Skull, in his previous fight, that was a horrible fight. I think that's in the conversation for one of the worst boxing fights of the year. Let's see, who else is he? Jaime Mugina, Edgar Berlanga. These are hand-picked, cherry-picked opponents by Canelo Alvarez. So we don't know if prime Canelo is out, or he's just been playing easy, playing it safe. And this could be his moment to prove us all wrong and for Canelo to prove why he's still that guy in the sport of boxing. But getting back on track, advantage boxing IQ. That goes in favor of Terence Crawford. And I think Canelo Alvarez is at a slight disadvantage in terms of boxing IQ because Terence Crawford's boxing IQ has helped him become a top 3 pound-for-pound fighter in the sport of boxing. He's very intelligent in the ring. He's great at making adjustments in between championship fights. Has one of the best trainers in the sport in Bomac. And we know if Terence Crawford hears in that corner that he's down on the judges' scorecards, he could turn up a notch. Think about that fight that he had back in 2021 with Sean Porter, where his corner, Bomac and company, told him he's down. Terence Crawford turned it up and actually ended Sean Porter in that same round for that championship fight. So the intelligence of Terence Crawford, he's just so intelligent in that boxing ring. And you could actually throw in his boxing IQ for how he dismantled and dominated Earl Spence, excuses or not, how he dominated him 2 summers ago in the sport of boxing with ease. And made Earl Spence taste the canvas 2-3 times in that fight and was the only man to ever knock out Earl Spence and hand Earl Spence his first boxing loss. So I think boxing IQ has to go in the favor of Terence Crawford based off how intelligent he is in the ring, how he can make adjustments in between rounds, and how he can figure out his opponent to have success in that boxing ring. Trainers, I'll go with, and both of these fighters have really good trainers. I think the small advantage goes in favor of Canelo Alvarez over Terence Crawford in terms of trainers because Eddie Eddie Reynoso, is a snake for positive PED testing camps. Yes, I will always hold that over his head. However, Eddie Reynoso is very intelligent as a boxing trainer. He has helped Canelo Alvarez have success, and it's helped them get some of the biggest boxing wins that we've seen in the sport of boxing in this modern era. I mean, he's helped them have big success, one of the best resumes in this era of boxing, over 60 career wins, 4-division world champion, helped them create an elite boxing resume. And Bomac is an incredible trainer, yes, but the things that Canelo Alvarez has achieved, he's always achieved them with Eddie Reynoso. And I think Eddie Reynoso, as intelligent as he is as a trainer, does have the ability to help guide Canelo to where he needs to be, because Canelo has only lost 2 fights in his boxing career. That, of course, to Floyd Mayweather and Dimitri Bivol. Even though Terence Crawford is undefeated, Terence Crawford has not fought the competition that Canelo Alvarez has fought year in and year out in his boxing career. So in terms of trainers and seeing it all, I think Canelo Alvarez has the advantage with Eddie Reynoso in his corner for this fight. But overall, those are my advantages and disadvantages. And I have to say, both of these fighters are looking in incredible shape. Both of these guys are taking this fight serious. Both of these guys are training hard. I think both of them are locked in for training camp. I know Canelo Alvarez can look a little suspect to some for this training camp, but I think he's doing it on purpose. I think you'll see the best version of Canelo Alvarez on fight night. There's not much trash talk. Both of these fighters are just busting their ass to be one step ahead and have bragging rights in this fight 2 weeks from now. And they've upped the ante up in sparring, because Canelo Alvarez has been sparring with Jaron Ennis. Shakur Stevenson has been sparring with Terence Crawford. Right now, this is tough. Based off what I just said, both of these fighters are locked in. The training camps are looking well. Again, like I just said, Canelo Alvarez is playing with the media. I think he's just looking like he's not focused, looking like he's not sharp, looking like he's not that Canelo Alvarez of old. I think you'll see the best version of him fight night. And like I said, the sparring, these guys are ramping it up in training camp, with Canelo sparring and getting rounds with Jaron Ennis, and Terence Crawford sparring with his guy in Shakur Stevenson. Right now, I like the advantages that Terence Crawford really does bring to the table in this fight. He has the height and the reach. I know outside of the ring, he is as big as Canelo Alvarez. Height and reach. He has the speed, the agility, the boxing IQ, better footwork. But then you look at Canelo Alvarez, I think he is hungry, though. I think he really is hungry to prove something for his legacy, to defeat an undefeated fighter in Terence Crawford, who is a 2-time undisputed champion in 2 different weight classes. He has the huge advantage of being a weight bully. He has been undefeated at this super middleweight division. He's a 2-time undisputed champion at this super middleweight division. And Terence Crawford has not fought at 160 or 168. Which that is a huge advantage for Canelo Alvarez. For some out there, this fight could be very competitive until Canelo Alvarez hurts Terence Crawford, touches him up. And we could see if Terence Crawford's going to be in survival mode. Or we could see that Terence Crawford's going to bite down and really give us a fight that we're all going to remember. I just think that this fight is everything that we're going to want as boxing fans. But I don't have a winner yet. Saving that for next week of the Combat Series, but I will say that I think this is going to be one hell of a fight. I don't think both of these guys are going to back down. I think both of these guys are going to bring everything that they can to the table to make this a memorable fight for boxing fans around the world, for their own legacies. And hey, for sports bettors out there, it's not a bad idea to bet a tie, because the money could be so good for the first fight that we could see this again. We'll see. But I'll say my prediction for next week. But those are my advantages and disadvantages for Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez heading into the big, massive fight 2 weeks away in the sport of boxing.